The Moonshadow Canopy provides a 360-degree view in all directions, including straight up, totally unrestricted, and very clear with good optics. The video today is about installing the Moonshadow Canopy glass in your donor canopy and fitting it to your airplane. I had the pleasure of working with two very good friends,
Tall Tom and Alan,
and installing 3 sets of glass within just a few days. And we made this video during the course of the glass installation. It's a bit long, I agree. However, the video combined with the printed instructions will give you a very good idea how to go about getting it done and having a very good installation.
in this section I'm watching the sunrise over the Georgia and Florida coast. Beautiful morning, beautiful view, thanks to the Moonshadow Canopy and the good weather.
Now that you've seen the views available, we'll go through the process of installing the glass in the airplane. The first step, of course, is to get the canopy set in the jig, and you'll see that starting here. We'll take the canopy, set it into position, and then install the fixture to the bottom. This is a homemade fixture, and it bridges across the sides of the frame so that it stays in position so that we can remove material without having the shape of the canopy itself change. We have already cut the boards to length and prepared the spacer blocks to go between the board and the canopy frame so that everything remains true. This process is described in detail in the written instructions. But here we're attaching the posterior fixture, bridging the distance between the 2 side canopy rails. This one is attached where the forward end of the hat shelf would normally be, but the hat shelf has been removed for the prep for here. We're using drywall screws. There's already a hole in the canopy rail at this location on each side. We simply go through the hole and through the 2 boards with a long drywall screw to tie everything together. There
we go. That's the top one. Now we'll put the bottom one in. And then we'll set it on the floor and we'll make our cuts. Let's see where we're running. I think we're right here. Yeah, right there. You gotta get another. It's too big. Now you try this. Swap with me. Still too big. The board. Okay, this board bigger. Oh, this one fits. Okay, come in.
Hang on, I had it.
All right.
There we go. There's a rivet in it, catching it.
And fucking tight. Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to hold, is it?
It'll hold. It'll be fine. Come over and do the same. Well, it's loose, but we'll tighten it up in a minute.
Yeah, that's, I can't get it at any more of an
It's okay,
angle.
it's okay, get it down, I'll reposition. Okay. Now. Come back through.
Okay, try it again.
Here we are installing the forward fixture. And as you can see, the forward fixture is very close to the post between the forward and aft side windows. The hole in the canopy rail frame is very close to the post as well. So we stopped and removed the post. It's coming out to be discarded anyway. And that gave us better access to the holes so that we could attach the fixture. And you'll see in a moment where we're cutting out the posts. We're using a die grinder with a cutoff wheel to cut the metal in the structure underlying to remove the posts. While using the cutoff wheel, it is very important to always keep your face and your body away from the plane of rotation of the cutoff wheel, as it may come apart and can cause damage and injury. Okay, now we're getting the posts out of the way. That's one. In a moment, the other one will be removed. And now we can install the forward fixture. These fixtures will remain in place until we have completely fitted the canopy glass and are ready to test fit it onto the airframe. Now that the fixtures are securely in place, we'll set the canopy on the floor and mark the cutout lines on the canopy roof. And here you can see on the forward section it has already been marked. And then we'll remove the roof section in preparation for getting ready to put in the glass.
We measured it, the length.
And you will notice that there's a large section of metal removed. The entire green area here will be removed and set aside. We will use part of that metal to make a doubler to go at the forward section
Yes, we did. We cut those out.
where the canopy latch is located, and the rest will simply be discarded or put in the reserve aluminum pile.
All right, the next step.
We're now setting the canopy up on sawhorses to a nice working elevation so that we can measure the distances described in the instructions. We'll measure the distance front to back, straight line, and we'll also measure the distance from canopy rail to canopy rail underneath the bow where the glass will mate up to the bow. And that will give us some guidelines as to where we need to be when we finish up. You can see the cut lines marked posteriorly there in the canopy on the left side of the screen and on the right near Tom's arm where we've drawn lines that'll be cut out.
All right, here we have our measuring device. You see it's offset on each end. We do that so that we can get a straight line measurement from the back of the canopy to the bow, and that way we can line the bow up properly and it should fit the airplane better. So here we go.
Now, we have a better arc on this thing. Put that front corner in the center.
Here we are measuring from the center of the jig point after the canopy cutout to the forward outboard rivet on each side. And we're setting the measuring device so that
Are you in the middle?
Yep.
we can reproduce the distance after we get the roof cut out and we start fitting the bow back into the glass. We have learned that this method will allow us to get the canopy back to the original dimensions and give a much better fit when it goes back onto the airplane. Assuming, of course, the canopy fit the airplane well to start with. That is not always the case. It is always best to test fit your canopy to the airplane prior to starting the installation.
Okay, we are really close to being right where we're supposed to be.
Perfect.
Okay, so this will work.
Okay.
All right, we got that dimension locked in. Now, I can,
Okay, you're gonna start cutting?
yeah, I'm gonna start cutting the back part of the roof out. Old Craftsman whiz wheel cutoff tool is been around. No, that's yours. Okay, no matter. I don't care which one you hand me.
Well, I thought I cut two.
Oh, you got a hose? Okay,
Yeah, I've got
you
two
got two.
hoses.
That's fine. Save us some time. I want to get this one first. Well, yeah, we still got that to deal with. It's still there.
Now we simply cut along the marked lines from the templates, and when all of the metal is freed, near the end of this segment, you'll see us lift the roof off of the canopy. That gets us very close to fitting the glass. Now we have finished cutting the metal loose at the back and it is freed up. You'll notice in a moment, and we're finishing up the cuts at the front. And now we're simply lifting the roof off and setting it aside. Part of the roof will be reused to make a doubler, and the rest, well, gone away. And now you can see the remaining canopy frame, and this is what we'll use to hold and support the Moonshadow Canopy. The next step will be to remove the canopy bow after we clean up the edges and the metal.
You can leave the bow for the moment, take this belt sander and clean up the sheet metal edges where we cut.
And here you can see we use a belt sander to smooth up any rough edges from the cutting process using the cutoff wheel. We'll work all the way around with this process until we get it very nice. Now we're happy with the edges of the metal, nice and smooth, no rough spots. There's some areas we can correct later if we need to.
That'll work. Now we're going to remove the bow.
There are normally 8 rivets on each side that must be removed in order to get the canopy bow free from the canopy frame. And you'll notice that we simply drill the rivets out and work it loose. Most of the rivets upon reassembly will be replaced with screws. The 2 forwardmost rivets in the canopy bow will in fact be replaced with rivets, and it is easily done with a rivet squeezer. The 3 rivets that hold the bracket to the canopy frame itself can be omitted because the screw that holds the canopy truck in place will securely clamp that, as well as the glass will hold it in place very nicely.
Yep, you sneak up on it.
When I get the right side freed up from the canopy rail, I move over to the left side and start over drilling rivets. And you can see here the rivets to be drilled out on the side. The one I'm drilling now is the one that will be replaced with a rivet on each side. The others will be screws.
First one of these we did, it took a good while for me to convince myself to take this bow off.
can walk your line, and I can say your ABCs. No, I ain't had a problem. I don't smoke that stuff. If you gotta know, then I'll come clean. It's the truth. I got a little love. I'm flying like a kite does.
Yeah, it has one on the table here. Unless it got put up.
I'm sober as an old jug. I'll tell you right.
Yeah, sorry about this.
My baby, she's
Something like that. I had a different one yesterday.
I got a little love.
That was nice and sharp.
My baby, she's a good drug. I got a little love.
Try to drill that again.
I'm feeling my
Okay, this one is loose. I've got one rivet here to get out.
The rumors are true. Assigned seating is coming to Southwest Airlines, so you can choose your seat when you book and when you board.
I can sit with my family?
If you're good, but I like need the window seat. You get that window seat.
Old rivet.
Excuse me, what if I'm really tall?
Congrats. We also have extra leg room seats.
I had a small one here the other day.
Now, assigned seating starts
Used
with
it, not
Southwest.
where it got laid.
Expected to begin early 2026. Learn more at southwest.com/assigned seating. Basic fare excluded from seat selection and booking.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah, there's a smaller shoulder dog.
Pour it up. Drip the mind. Drop it down. Easy anchor man.
Okay.
You got a rivet in the middle there?
I gotta say, yeah, they've already drilled. I just haven't popped the heads off of them yet.
Red headlight.
That's what it is.
Channel 5 till you had all the stand. Bought a boat. Called the anchor man.
Oh, yeah. Need to clean that up there with a stripper guy.
Yeah.
All the good views. Sky and water on it.
Yeah, it took a lot of convincing. Guys, helped me the first time. Convinced me to remove this from the bow, because that's not how it can be. Yes. I'm gonna trim this back. We cut it right through where we wrote down the number. They do it, yeah.
Yeah, I'm taking that quarter.
Yeah, see, we cut it right.
Yeah. Perfect.
All right. Now this needs the belt side. All right. Take the belt sander here. Clean the cuts. And I need to go ahead and whiz wheel that off. Gotta clearance this out.
Then here's the frame. We've removed the bow, which is set aside for the moment, so we can fit the glass into the bottom part first, and then we'll fit the bow last, which is what we're doing here. Here we're stripping the protective plastic away from the edges so that we can mark the glass and trim it properly. If you don't remove the plastic, your trim marks will be on the plastic itself, and it tends to move or fall off while you're trying to make the cuts. We do leave the remainder of the plastic on the glass itself to protect it during the installation process. And once the glass is secured to the frame and fitted properly, then we will remove the rest of the plastic. Now it's time to fit the glass into the frame for the initial fit. And you'll see Al and I set the glass into the frame and then get it secured in place. We are checking carefully to make sure that the entire lower edge of the glass is inside the frame, as on the back corners it may tend to ride on top of the frame when you first try to put the glass in. That gets better as the bottom is trimmed for proper fit. Now we will push the glass back into the frame as far as possible. Alan will hold it at the back so that it doesn't move away from me, and then I will push at the front. We'll check again to make sure that the edges are inside the frame. When we're satisfied that is the case, then we'll push it on back further. You can only push it so far by hand. Then you will need to tap on the front edge of the glass with a big rubber mallet. Better not to use metal or anything hard like hard plastic. This is a rubber mallet. And we'll simply tap on the front edge of the glass near the bottom repeatedly and go from right to left side until we get the aft end of the glass seated into the frame satisfactorily. Here we're repeatedly striking the canopy bow area of the glass with the hammer to gradually work it back into place. Once we're happy that the glass is as far aft as possible and we have about 1 inch of glass extending aft of the jig point, then we'll drill a hole and anchor everything so we can always go back to the same spot when we're trimming and nothing will change. I'm also working to see that the two front edges are even in relationship to the front edge of the aluminum so that the glass is symmetrically placed in the frame.
Interesting. She's going out back now, ain't she?
Yep.
Boy, I like what I'm seeing. We're not going to have to trim nearly as much off the front of this one.
That's good.
Put it back in snug.
Yeah.
We'll know what we're near it here, I know. We'll know it. We'll go back some more there. Ready?
Yep.
Now we have the canopy glass as far back in the frame as we can get. So now it's time to establish a hole in the glass to match the jig point. So we'll drill a hole here using the jig point hole through the glass, and then we can cleco that together, and now the glass will not move while we're making marks for trimming. Every time the glass is placed back into the frame after trimming, we will go back to the jig point, align it properly, and then place a cleco for marking again. Every time we trim glass off the bottom of the canopy edges, it will be easier to slide it back to the jig point. And in the later stages, it will be easy to slide it past the jig point. And it is important that once you've established your jig point alignment with the glass, try to stay with that alignment in the later stages, or you'll run into problems with your fitment.
No measure.
We already measured that down. I marked it here.
Now we're checking the fitment at the lower edge of our glass to the frame. On the forward edges at this stage, the glass will be above the frame noticeably. And here we've noticed that the frame is inside the glass at the left rear corner where we put it in. Alan popped it back in for me, and then the glass sat down nicely on the frame. I will crawl up under the glass into the canopy area and mark the areas that are touching, and we will trim those areas repeatedly, and as we do that, the front edge will come down. More material will be removed from the front part of the glass than at the rear. A small change at the rear results in a large change at the front. Be very careful not to take too much material off the aft end of the canopy glass. The canopy we're working on now belongs to Dave, and in the background you can see Alan's canopy already fitted in on the airplane. You'll see more about Alan's canopy later in the video. We did 3 canopies during these days, and the video is a conglomerate taken from installation from the different canopies.
They say the best things in life are free when I spell love T-I.
All right. Jesse time. Got the water. All right, you ready? Got Pico out?
Ready? Oh, wait.
Hang on. Yeah, we gotta have a good one. Our fixture. Canopy holding fixture.
We use a padded area to set the canopy glass on for trimming. We have to turn it over so we can reach the bottom edges more easily, and here we're using a chair that the back has been removed, but you could use a bench with a cloth or quilt laying on it, or you could lay it on the floor on top of a quilt. And then we examine the trim marks that we made while the canopy was in the frame to see where they are, and then we'll get the tools for trimming. Large areas are trimmed using a whiz wheel or cut-off wheel and a die grinder like I have in my hand here. For fine tuning, we use a belt sander with a 40 or 80 grit, preferably 80 grit belt. You will need to keep both hands on your cutting device or trimming device, whether it be the die grinder with a cut-off wheel, a belt sander, or some sort of saw blade. You will not be able to steady the glass yourself, so you'll need to have your assistant, in this case Alan, holds the glass, and you'll see him come around and hold the side I'm working on in just a moment. And we found that works quite nicely. Now we turn around to the other side of the glass to trim it as well. I trim both sides every time I remove the glass for trimming, and then put it back in for test fit afterwards. I've used the die grinder and cutoff wheel to make the larger cuts, and now we'll use the belt sander to smooth where I've cut and to take off small amounts of material to bring myself down to my trim mark that I made while the canopy glass was in the frame. Now this trimming session is completed, and it is time to test fit the glass back into the canopy bow. So we'll turn it around in the right orientation and then turn it over and set it back into the frame. The process is repeated many times until we are satisfied that we have a really good fit. The goal is not to remove a lot of material with each trimming session, but rather to sneak up on your final destination. Now we're forcing the glass back into the frame again by gently tamping on the front edge of the glass on both sides, while Alan watches the alignment holes between the glass and the canopy frame. He will guide me from side to side until I can get the hole back into position, and then when it's close enough, we'll place a cleco through the holes to lock it together, and then we'll make another measurement or mark for trimming again until we get the canopy down to where we want it. Here I am examining the bottom edge of the canopy glass against the frame rail to check for fit. You will see that I am marking the glass itself with a Sharpie in areas where it is making contact so that those areas can be trimmed as necessary to bring the front edge down into position. Now the marking is complete and we're ready to remove the glass for trimming again. Alan will remove the cleco from the aft end of the canopy so that we can get it out, and we'll place it back on our chair and do the trimming process. Alan holds the back of the canopy frame while I pull forward on the glass to get it loose. I did not need to remove very much material from the bottom edge of the glass with this trimming episode, and opted to use the belt sander with 80 grit belt on it rather than the cutoff wheel. Next, we move to the front edge of the glass, where we start by taking out the dotted section at the top center for the latch mechanism. With that in place, it is impossible to fit the bow. That has to be removed first. Then we mark the front edge with the bow in place and mark for trimming and do the trimming. Okay, here we've made some marks. And you notice it's tapering to the edge because this edge is okay. We have to take this back a little bit more because we're going to move the whole canopy bow back just a little bit. And this is going to be really close. I'll leave the line on this cut and then hopefully I'll just do some sanding to get the final fit. Now here you can see the bow. Okay, here we are sneaking up on it. This side is not quite where I want it. You can see this hole needs to be moved back a little bit, but it's down low enough. And then on this side, you see I've got a ways to go down here and back some. The glass seems to be in up here at the top at this point, but I've got to get the glass short enough at the bottom so this will drop on down. And the glass is sitting on the bottom. So, okay. Sneak up on it a little at a time. Here we have already put the canopy bow on and marked for trimming, and then we'll trim that and put the canopy bow back on. You can see the cutout in the top for the latch mechanism, and here's the bow that was just on and has been removed. Here we are trimming the front edge of Alan's canopy glass. Note the trim line or mark that was made with the canopy bow in place, just as we did when we did the canopy at the bottom edges. The cutoff wheel gives a very nice cut. I am using a thin one, and you can see that it does distort and flex a bit during the cutting process. I was surprised at that. But always keep your eyes away from the plane of rotation of that cutoff wheel, as if it fails, it will go through glasses, it will put a hurting on you. So just be very careful. Here we're getting it free. Here we're working on the other side of Alan's canopy trimming. Notice that the cutout in the top was a bit larger for his because his canopy had a fixture there that had to be accommodated. Also, we will take the belt sander and smooth all of these edges, especially in the cutout at the top, so that everything is rounded and there are no sharp cuts into the edge of the glass that would be a stress point for a crack. As the glass is fitted to the bottom and it's locked into place, can't be moved now. We've got holes drilled and clecoed. We have the rest of the holes to drill, but then we have to come back in and finish fitting the bow. But at this point, the distance from the bow to the back of the canopy here is too long, by about a half to maybe 5/8 of an inch. And so we'll be trimming the top of the glass here later to get it back into position so the canopy will close properly. The hat shelf has been reinstalled temporarily so that we can have access to the canopy rails to get it going the airplane for test. Now the final trimming has been done and we're testing. Okay. If you look carefully here, you can see our alignment mark right here. And you can see that, well, you're in the middle because it's moved a little bit. If I push this back into position, that lines up right there. And that's what I've been trying to do. If I do that, We made this measurement before we put it, they took the roof out. And now we measured again after we've put the glass in, and we find the measurement is close enough. Now it'll fit the airplane. That's what we're trying to show. Here we are, carrying the canopy over to Dave's airplane to reinstall and check for fit. At this point, the front edge where the canopy bow crosses over the glass is not secured permanently in place. I've not drilled any holes through the canopy frame there and the glass to lock in the location. We did put this one on twice because I left the glass at the top intentionally a little long on the first pass just to make sure that our measuring system was working properly. And as you saw in the previous segment, it was. And so we trimmed the glass back and put it back on the airplane. We're aligning the front canopy rollers and the rear canopy rollers together, and then we'll slide the canopy forward and look at the fit. And you can see Tom holding it and then getting it aligned so we can slide it on. To do this, you do have to have the hatch shelf in place because it holds the rear canopy rails. And we have the front trucks in place with rollers. And that canopy slides like butter. It is very nice. And the fit is very good. Initially, I had a slight gap on the bottom on either side because I had the top a little too long on purpose. And then after we trimmed that back, as you saw in the previous segment where we measured, everything was spot on. Very happy with the installation, very happy with how quickly these went. Now I'm sitting in the cockpit looking at the fit. You notice that we have the canopy bow secured on both sides with clecos. The forward cleco you saw Tom manipulating there is the one that will be replaced with a rivet, and the others will be replaced with screws. Look carefully and you will see a gap at the bottom of the canopy where it meets the windshield bow, right there in the picture. It is too long at the top, and that's where I left it long on purpose for the first fit. If you skip this step and lock the glass in place before you know it matches the windshield bow properly, you could be stuck with this situation and have to try to work around it or have extra holes in your canopy glass. So this step of test fitting the canopy glass and installation to the airplane before securing the location of the bow is very, very important for this process to come out with a good result. Now we've completed the initial test fit with the canopy cut a little long at the top, the glass. We'll now remove the canopy bow, and do the final trim. And set the canopy bow up to match the dimensions you saw in the previous segment that we did with our measuring device. To get the canopy on and off the airplane, it is best to have 3 people, especially in an airplane that has a front step. If you have a rear step, it can be done with 2 people. Here, Alan is on the right and Tom is on the left holding the canopy. I'm holding it in the cabin area. We get it loose, and then we hold it until Alan can come around and catch the side, and then we work it back and get it off. This is not something I would try to do by myself or with an assistant who was not up to the task. These guys are great. They're both A&P mechanics and have been really good to work with. Okay, here we are. Look how nice that goes up. All the way across. Nice fit. I'm happy with that. And there we go. There's the other side, and you can see the fit is very nice. Doesn't get any better than that. Alan's canopy was the first that we did, and we saw it on the airplane and found that it had an excellent fit on the first try. All right, here we are. Marking holes, drilling holes. Here, Alan is marking the holes and drilling through the skin and glass together. And for this operation, he is using the 1/8 inch plexiglass drill bit so that it doesn't damage the glass going through. This bit cuts through the metal very nicely.
Just to show the bona fides. Okay, that's 2, and that's 3. And here's one, all clecoed in.
This was the last one we did for Tom's airplane. Had a little issue with fitment because the canopy didn't fit the airplane perfectly, but it's really close and it's going to look nice when it's done.
Okay. We have Alan's glass in, clecoed. We have to final fit the front against the airplane windshield bow. And Alan's busily installing the hat shelf with the rear canopy rollers, tacks on it. We get that locked in. We'll set her back on the airplane and see how she fits. All right, first test fit, and it was good.